Let's be honest, discipline is one of the toughest, most frustrating, and often most confusing part of parenting. We won't be there. That moment when your child is flat out refusing to do something you've asked, or they are eating their sibling, or they are talking about it that way that just pushes all your buttons. It's enough to make even the most patient parent want to lose it. And in those moments, it's easy to fall back on what we know, on what we might have experienced ourselves as children, punishment. Timeouts, yelling, taking away privileges, grinding, the list goes on. We do it because we think it will stop the behavior, teach them a lesson, and make them behave better in the future. But does it really work? I mean, really work? Does it actually teach our children the skills they need to manage their behavior, to make good choices, to become responsible, respectful, and self disciplined individuals? Or does it just create fear, resentment, and a cycle of negativity? That's what we are going to explore in this lesson. We are going to move beyond punishment and introduce a different approach, positive discipline. Now, before we go any further, let's get one thing straight. Positive discipline is not permissive parenting. It's not about letting your kids do whatever they want whenever they want. It's not about avoiding consequences or having no rules. Absolutely not. In fact, positive discipline is about having clear expectations, firm boundaries, and consistent consequences. But it's about doing it in a way that's respectful, empathetic, and focused on teaching, not just controlling. It's about being both firm and kind. It's about providing both structure and support. Think of it like this. Imagine you are learning to drive a car. Would you rather have an instructor who yells at you every time you make a mistake, punishes you for stalling, and makes you feel terrified of getting behind the wheel? Or would you rather have an instructor who calmly explains the rule of the road, guides you through the process, provide constructive feedback, and helps you learn from your mistakes? Positive discipline is like being that second driving instructor. It's about guiding your child, teaching them the skills they need to navigate life challenges, and supporting them along the way. So, what are the core principles of positive discipline? Let's break them down. First, it's about guidance. This means setting clear expectations for your child's behavior. It means establishing boundaries and rules that are appropriate for their age and development. And it means providing them with the support and encouragement they need to meet those expectations. Second is about teaching. Positive discipline focuses on helping children learn from their mistakes. It's about understanding the why behind their behavior and teaching them more appropriate ways to get their needs met. It's about developing self control, problem solving skills, and emotional regulation. Third, it's about connection. This is perhaps the most fundamental principle of all. Positive discipline is about building a strong, trusting, loving relationship with your child. It's about creating a secure attachment where your child feels safe, loved, and understood. Because when children feel connected to their parents, they are more likely to cooperate, to listen, and to learn. Fourth, it's about respect. This means treating your child with dignity and understanding, even when they misbehave. It means listening to their perspective, validating their feelings, and avoiding harsh or punitive language. It means remembering that they are children and they are still learning. And finally, positive discipline is about long term solutions. It's not about quick fixes or temporary behavior changes. It's about developing skills and strategies that will help children manage their behavior throughout their lives. It's about fostering resilience, self discipline, and a sense of responsibility. Now, let's contrast this with traditional punishment. Punishment at its core is about controlling behavior through fear and coercion. It's about making a child suffer for their misbehavior in the hope that they will avoid doing it again in the future. But the problem with punishment is that it often backfires. It might stop the behavior in the short term, but it doesn't teach the child anything about why the behavior was wrong or what to do instead. And it can have some serious negative consequences. Punishment can damage the parent child relationship, creating fear, resentment, and distrust. It can make children feel angry, ashamed, and humiliated, and it can actually lead to more misbehavior as children will become rebellious, sneaky, or defiant to avoid getting caught. They do not see it as discipline. Punishment focuses on the past, on what the child did wrong. Positive discipline focuses on the future, on what the child can do differently next time. It's about learning, growing, and developing the skills to make better choices. It focuses on the child's behavior, not the child. So we've established that positive discipline is not permissive parenting, and we've outlined the core principles that guide this approach. Now let's get practical. Let's bring this to life with some real world examples. How does positive discipline actually look in those everyday parenting moments? Let's say your child refuses to share a toy with a friend. A typical punishment based response might be to yell at your child, take the toy away, or send them to a timeout. But what would a positive discipline approach look like? First, you will get down on your child's level, make eye contact, and speak calmly. You might say something like, I see you are having a hard time sharing your toy right now. It's tough when you really want to play with something, but sharing is important. It helps us make and keep friends. Then you might help them find a solution. Maybe you could suggest taking turns, finding another toy to play with, or setting a timer so each child gets a chance to play with the toy. You are not just telling them not to do something, you are teaching them what to do instead. You are guiding them towards a more appropriate behavior. Here's another scenario. Imagine your child throws a tantrum in a store because you won't buy them a candy bar. A typical punishment based response might be to scold them, threaten them, or even drag them out of the store, kicking and screaming. A positive discipline approach will be different. First, you will acknowledge their feelings. You might say, I know you are really disappointed that we are not getting candy today. It's okay to feel that way. It's hard when you want something and you can't have it. Then you will set a clear boundary. But we are not buying candy today. We already talked about that before we came into the store. And then you might offer a distraction or a choice. We are going to buy some fruit. Would you like to help me pick out some apples or some bananas? Or if they are really upset, you might simply say, I see you are having a hard time. Let's sit here for a few minutes until you feel better. You are not giving in to the tantrum, but you're also not shaming or punishing your child for having big feelings. You are acknowledging their emotions, setting a clear limit, and offering support. One more example. Let's say your child lies to you about completing their own work. A typical punishment might be to grind them, take away their screen time, or yell at them for being dishonest. A positive discipline approach will focus on understanding the why behind the lie. Did they lie because they were afraid of getting in trouble? Because they were overwhelmed by the assignment? Because they didn't understand it? You must start by saying, I know you said you finished your own work, but I checked with your teacher and it seems you didn't. I'm concerned about that. Can you tell me what happened? Then listen to their explanation without interrupting or judging. Try to understand their perspective. Once you understand the reason for the lie, you can address the underlying issue. Maybe they need help with their own work. Maybe they need a more structured work routine. Maybe they need to learn how to ask for help when they are struggling. And of course, there should be a consequence for the lie, but it should be logical and related to the behavior. Maybe they lose some screen time not as a punishment, but because they need to use that time to complete their own work. Or maybe they have to write a letter of apology to their teacher. The key is to focus on teaching, not just punishing. To help your child understand the importance of honesty, responsibility, and making amends. These are just a few examples, but they illustrate the core principles of positive discipline: connection, respect, guidance, and teaching. And an important part of positive discipline is setting clear expectations. Children thrive on structure and routine. They need to know what's expected of them, what the rules are, and what the consequences will be if they break those rules. But setting clear expectations isn't about backing others or being a drill sergeant. It's about communicating your expectations in a way that your child can understand and in a way that feels respectful and supportive. Here are some tips. First, be specific. Instead of saying be good, say please use your working feet inside the house. Instead of saying be respectful, say please use a kind voice when you are talking to your sister. Second, use age appropriate language. A 3-year-old and a 10-year-old need very different kinds of instructions. Keep it simple and concise for younger children. Third, explain the reason behind your rules. Children are more likely to cooperate when they understand why a rule is in place. Instead of just saying no running in the house, you might say we walk inside so we don't trip and fall and hurt ourselves. Instead of just saying no eating, you might say, we use gentle hands because eating hurts others. And finally, where appropriate, involve your children in creating the rules. This gives them a sense of ownership and responsibility, and it makes them more likely to follow the rules. You can have a family meeting and discuss things like bedtime routines, chore expectations, or screen time rules. Setting clear expectations is a crucial first step, but it's not enough on its own. We also need to be proactive, not just reactive. So, we've talked about responding to misbehavior with positive discipline. But wouldn't it be even better if we could prevent some of those challenging situations in the first place? That's where being proactive comes in. Think of it like this: if you know there's a pothole in the road ahead, you won't just drive straight into it, right? You will steer around it or slow down to avoid damaging your car. It's the same with parenting. If we can anticipate potential problems, we can often take steps to prevent them before they happen. This doesn't mean we can eliminate all misbehavior. Children are children and they are going to test boundaries and make mistakes. That's part of growing up. But by being proactive, we can significantly reduce the frequency and intensity of those challenging moments. We can create a more supportive and predictable environment for our children, which in turn help them feel more secure and better able to manage their behavior. So, what does being proactive actually look like? It's about observing our children, understanding their triggers, and anticipating their needs. For example, imagine you are planning a long car ride. You know that your child tends to get restless and cranky when they are hungry or bored. A reactive approach would be to wait until they start whining and complaining and then try to deal with it. A proactive approach would be to pack plenty of healthy snacks and drinks, bring along some books, games, or activities to keep them entertained, and plan for regular breaks to stretch their legs and get some fresh air. You're anticipating their needs and taking steps to prevent a meltdown before it happens. Here's another example. Let's say your child has a hard time transitioning from one activity to another. They get upset when you tell them it's time to stop playing and come to dinner, or when it's time to leave the park. A proactive approach would be to give them a warning before the transition. You might say, we are going to leave the park in 5 minutes. You have time for one more turn on the slide. This gives them time to prepare mentally for the change and it makes the transition less abrupt and jarring. Or let's say your child struggles with homework. They get frustrated easily, they procrastinate, and it often ends in a battle. A proactive approach might be to create a designated homework time and space, free from distractions. You might establish a routine where they have a snack and a short break after school, and then they start their own work. You might sit with them, not to do the work for them, but to offer support and encouragement and to help them stay on track. These are just a few examples, but the principle is the same. Think ahead, anticipate potential problems, and take steps to prevent them. It's about being observant, understanding your child's individual needs and trigger, and creating an environment that supports their success. And it's also important to remember that being proactive isn't just about preventing misbehavior, it's also about creating opportunities for positive interactions and connections. It's about making time for family meals, playing games together, reading together, having conversations, and simply enjoying each other's company. These positive experiences build a strong foundation of trust and connections, which in turn make it easier to navigate the challenges when they do arise. So, to recap, positive discipline is about moving beyond punishment and embracing a more respectful, effective, and long term approach. It's about guidance, teaching, connection, and respect. It's about setting clear expectations, being proactive, and helping our children develop the skills they need to manage their behavior and thrive. So, I encourage you to start shifting your mindset. Start thinking about how you can move away from punishment based responses and embrace the principles of positive discipline.